Hey everybody, it's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I'm going to be doing rainbow die cutting with some Impression Obsession large glasses dies. These are super fun. I love this set of dies because they come in a pair. There's actually a girly feminine cat's eye set of frames, and then there's a more masculine set. And they're large enough to take center stage on your card front, and they're also large enough for this particular technique. So I need to make my own rainbow paper from scratch. So I'm going to start by taking some quarter sheets of scrap colored cardstock that I had in my scrap bin, and I'm going to cut them into 1/8 inch strips. And I'm using my tonic bypass trimmer, but you could also use the Fiskars trimmer. I just grabbed this one because the blades on my Fiskars are dull and I haven't replaced them yet. So I'm just going to continue cutting these little tiny strips. This thing can cut strips like a hair, like as skinny as a hair. It does a really great job of that. Anyway, I've got my strips ready to go, and now I need to make a foundation for these strips. So I'm going to take a piece of this Stick It double-sided sheet adhesive. I just had some scraps there in the package, and I'm going to peel away the liner and apply it to a piece of typing paper. And the typing paper is just cut roughly to the size that it will accommodate both of those glasses dies. And I'm going to get my paper coated on just that one side and then trim away the excess very quickly so that it's not in my way or I'm not, like sticking my hands in any of it. Get that out of the way, and then I can start grabbing the liner and separating it just a little bit from that typing paper, and I can start laying down my cardstock strip. Now I'm just going to pull away the liner partially and expose 1/2 of my typing paper here. And I'm going to take a strip of red cardstock and just start on the diagonal here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted it at an angle. I didn't want it perfectly perpendicular to the paper. And once I've got that strip down, I'm going to come in very tightly and lay down the next color, which is orange. And it does take a little bit of finessing because the strips are so skinny, they're kind of bendy. And so if they were wider, I probably wouldn't have had to futz at all with getting them tightly butted together, but they are skinny and kind of bendy. So I'm going to take my time here as I repeat my pattern of colors, and I'm going to go all the way to that outer corner, just continuing to repeat and lay down those strips very tightly to each other. And when I get to the end, I'm going to go ahead and rotate that piece around. And as you can see, I'm just going to go back to the center and start laying down those strips across to the other corner. And again, repeating the same sequence of colors in my pattern here. And I like leaving the liner intact on this piece because if I get interrupted by a phone call or something, then the adhesive isn't exposed and liable to get contaminated with dust or scraps or whatever. And I can come back to it whenever I'm ready without having to worry about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue laying things down. I even kind of use that to help press those down in place. And I'll just keep going until I get to that outer corner. Now you can see that I've got my whole rainbow pattern going there, and I'm just going to burnish it with the liner paper there just to make sure they're all very tightly secured to that typing paper. And then I can take my long blade scissors and trim away the excess. Now you don't have to do this, but they kind of get in the way if you have them all hanging out there. So for me, it's just easier to get rid of them. So I'll go ahead and whack all those off, and then I'm going to take the glasses dies and lay those on top and send it through the Big Shot. And it's going to cut right through all of that all at the same time. And the great thing about using the Stick It and using the typing paper is it gives a foundation for those pieces of colored cardstock to stay stuck together nicely. But you can only cut through about one layer of 100-pound cardstock with a low profile die. So that's why I use typing paper to create the backing there. I also took some Craft-A-Board because I knew I wanted to kind of give them a little bit more heft and 3D effect. So I coated some Craft-A-Board with some of that Stick It and then on the top side, and then I ran the die through. So here you can see I've also die cut a number of these same glasses from different materials. I've got glitter paper, I've got the Craft-A-Board with the Stick It on top, I've got my rainbow paper, and I also have some plain white cardstock 110-pound Nina that I've die cut them. And all I have to do now is start mixing and matching the different components. So I took the Craft-A-Board and I peeled away the liner of the eyeglass frames, and then I could take the white frames that I had already die cut from some Nina and mount those in place. And then I peeled off the liner paper from the lenses so that I could stick the rainbow lenses in there. And so there you can see, this is kind of like an inset die cutting technique, but here we've got the multicolored rainbow effect. And I just thought this was so much fun. And then when I finished all of those, I kind of assembled a whole bunch of them because I had enough options there to continue mixing and matching. Then I needed to make my card bases. So I took some taffy cardstock and I cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I mounted a greeting. This is from the Warm Fuzzy stamp set that had the perfect greeting for this. And I just inked it up there with some Stays On ink to get an impression. I mounted it after I figured out where I wanted it to go on my card front. I mounted it and then I could ink it up with some Stays On. It wasn't as dark as I wanted it to be, so I'm just going to ink it up again and do a second impression. And then I can pop out that layer and take the next card front or card base, depending on whether or not I'm doing multiple layers. But the greeting is going to remain mounted on the Mini Misty lid, so I can just keep stamping that same sentiment, "You brighten my day," multiple times and get a whole stack of base cards ready to go. And here you can see I wanted it just a little bit darker, so I'm just double stamping, and you can do that with the Misty and nobody will ever know that you stamped it twice. So now I'm going to mount all my layers together here. I've got some foam tape around the perimeter of this taffy layer, and I've exposed the center adhesive, but I left the liner paper partially on the perimeter there so I can use those liner papers as handles to make sure I've got that down in place, and then I have some fudge room. If I don't get it on perfectly straight, I can lift it back up and reposition it. So now I'm just going in with the rest of those liner papers and with my tweezers, and I'm going to get in there and peel away those liners. Now, some of my cards were single layer and some of them had the taffy layer. It just depended on how much contrast I had with the color of the frame I was using. Now I'm going to take the tweezers and get back in here on the back side of my die cut glasses and remove the liner paper from the Be Creative tape. I'd put that on the back so that the lenses in the crafted board would stay secure to the frames because they were going to be the foundation for layering my pretty die cut rainbow glasses on top of, and then it would just kind of give them that extra dimension. And then for some shine, I decided to coat them with the Nuvo crystal drops, and this is Morning Dew, I think it's called, and it's supposed to dry clear, and it did. But when I finished, I took this and stuck it in the window in my office, and there was a draft coming in. It was really cold, and what I didn't realize, because this is a pretty thick layer, is this cold air drafted. I remember feeling it, and when I came back to check on how well these were drying, I noticed that it had crackled the Nuvo crystal drops. And I thought it was a really cool effect. It wasn't what I really wanted on this project, but it's a really cool effect. And I'm hoping here in this still shot you can get a better look at how this end result came to be. Now, I'm hoping that it was that cold draft of air that caused the crackling, because it'd be nice to be able to do that at will or not if I don't want it. But what I was really going for was a high gloss effect. So on subsequent frames, I just used Ranger's glossy accents to coat them. Here's one of the rainbow frames that I put together, and I used some glitter paper to do the lenses. And you can see how it gives a really nice high gloss effect. And it goes on just a little bit cloudy, but when it's dry, it'll be completely clear and glossy and give that epoxy-like finish. I have more still shots available at the Classroom blog. All the supplies are listed below and available at ellenhudson.com, and I hope this inspires you to do a little bit of rainbow die cutting. Thanks for watching.